All right, yo. I want to know what you think about this. But what do you think the chances are for it to impact Miami, Orlando, or Tampa?
I don't know. All right, welcome everybody. Welcome into the madness that's about to be the next 2 hours. I started the live stream, by the way. I'm just waiting for a few people to get in. That's all. I started the live stream, by the way.
Okay.
All right. Is anybody coming in?
Part 2. Part 1 was a fail.
Yeah. I don't know. Last night we had a bunch of technical issues. Hopefully you guys can hear, because we got multiple people in tonight, and maybe even more soon. But hopefully you guys can hear, because I don't want people not being able to hear anything. All right. I'm gonna just wait a few minutes for people to start coming in. I'm starting a few minutes, like actually.
We have the same amount of people.
Nah, but like on the YouTube chat, on the YouTube chat room, not this one. Oof. All right. I'm just go ahead and start. So, welcome everybody to day 1 of the hurricane season. Well, technically day 2, but yesterday
This is
failed.
day
So
2.
we're basically just trying again. Hopefully everything works out. What's up, Supernova? And yeah, basically share the stream. Of course, like it if you're new. Subscribe. I'm good, by the way. I'm good, by the way. And of course, we got a bunch of people on today to talk with hurricane season. Let's talk about hurricane season. I'm gonna release my new predictions, which I just put together yesterday and the day before. I'm gonna talk about those a little bit later on. But of course, we got potential tropical cyclone number 1. But before we go into any of that, I just want to everybody just say hello. How is everybody doing?
We're doing good.
Doing good, honestly.
Doing all right.
All right. If you want to introduce yourselves.
You should introduce yourself.
Yeah.
Hi, my name is Arya. I'm here from the Hurricane Watch team. I'm Motherhood TV, aka Danny Alvarez. I'm just here chilling.
And I guess that's it. So, first off, I guess what do we think about everything that's going on with potential tropical cyclone 1? And yeah, my voice did change a lot because you know what? Yeah.
It honestly looks really bad.
Oh yeah. Yeah, potential tropical cyclone 1. Everybody's always fighting about where the center will be. I saw a lot of people were saying that the MLC would try to put a new center down and try to shift all of this, and others are just saying that the Yucatan Peninsula are just still banking on the Yucatan Peninsula center. It's a whole mess, but that's typical for early June system. And I'm kind of surprised.
I will say this though, I think it's actually not gonna be that like it's gonna be a mess the whole time. That's what I'm gonna say. It's never gonna be clear cut at this point that this is gonna look good at all.
Unless except the West Atlantic part.
I definitely agree with that because, like we've been watching, there's a lot of wind shear here in the Caribbean Sea and Gulf of Mexico, and I do think there's actually a decent amount of dry air. Definitely on the western side, there's not a whole lot of convection. I think there could be some dry air inhibiting factors on any kind of convection. But I really think the main reason is going to be wind shear, and so I think the reason we got a lot of wind shear. And so as long as the LLC and the MLC, if all the centers of circulation can't line up, we're not going to have a good hurricane. If all the centers of circulation were lined up, there was no shear and there was no dry air, and we had 82, 83, or even 85-degree water temperatures, we could easily have a rapid intensifying tropical storm Alex right now, is what I think.
Yeah. Also, just real quick, the NHC does have a potential tropical cyclone advisory. This is the first one they issued at 4 p.m. Central Daylight Time, and I think they're going to do another one in an hour. Are they?
Yeah. I don't think they do anything.
Nah, but it's at 35 miles per hour and 1,003 millibars, and moving north at 5 miles per hour, of course, located at 21.
The only thing they're going to change is the direction or like the speed it's moving. That's probably the only thing that's going to be different.
Yeah, probably.
And the location. Something else I wanted to mention is if this were to make landfall in Florida as a tropical storm, some of the most important things to take out of this system is flooding. Lots of freshwater flooding, meaning rain, heavy periods of rain are going to happen. And lots of flooding, I think, is going to occur. And I do think the National Hurricane Center, if I go to the flash flooding potential, southern portions of Florida are going to have the biggest possibilities of flooding. Miami and Key West, Miami and really south of Miami in that area, South Florida, at least a 40% chance of moderate flooding is going to happen. The good news from this is it's going to be a fast moving storm. It's going to be in and out of Florida in about, 18 hours or so or less. It's going to be a quick moving system.
Also,
it's going to be all gone by Sunday.
Yeah, the key messages for potential tropical cyclone 1, they have those, and basically echoes everything you guys are saying. Heavy rain is associated with this, and it will continue through Friday across eastern portions of the Yucatan, the Cayman Islands, western Cuba, and there will be also life-threatening flash flooding, not only in Florida, but also Cuba too. I guess for those, if anybody's watching from Cuba, doubt there is. But we also have flash flooding there. Heavy rain will begin to affect the South Florida and Florida Keys Friday and continue through Saturday. But Danny, I think there's already rain by you that's directly from this, right?
Yeah, I got it rain like a couple of hours ago from it.
Yeah.
It's on and off. Like it's kind of calm right now, but the skies are still kind of cloudy and everything.
Yeah.
Still overcast.
And I think I saw like the storm surge. Some places in Southwest Florida are expecting 1 to 3. Hold on, bring it up. Yeah.
The National Hurricane Center is only predicting 40 miles an hour. I do hear a lot of people are thinking this could be stronger. It really just depends. What does the Shear do? Does it try to organize more? Does the center circulation? The closer the MLC and the LLC get together, I think it will increase the possibilities of this becoming more of a moderate to a stronger tropical storm.
Mm-hmm.
But right now, they're just saying this is going to be really weak, and the rain event is going to be the biggest threat. Maybe some surge, 1 to 3 feet, nothing really crazy. You're not going to see 20 feet surge from this or anything. This is very little surge from this. Heavy rain, tornadoes. That's another possibility. Rip currents. They're going to be strong rip currents. I believe tornadoes, that's always a threat. Any tropical system that comes through is going to bring some threat of tornadoes.
Yeah. All basically things typical in early June storms. And also, I think Gabe joined, right? Hello.
Yo, I'm here.
Yeah.
Yo,
A
what's
little
up,
late.
Gabe?
Not much.
Yeah. What's up?
Alright, so speaking of storm surge, here's the storm surge values here, since no one's seeming to talk about those other than very little. From Victoria Tortugas up through Card Sound Bridge, so pretty much all over Florida Keys, y'all are getting 1 to 2 feet of storm surge.
Yeah.
And then from Card Sound Bridge up to Michael Island is 1 to 3 feet. And then finally up to Michael Island to middle of Longboat Key is only 1 to 2 feet. So if anyone wants to watch for surge specifically, Michael Island to Card Sound Bridge would probably be the best bet.
Yeah.
Again, it is only 1 to 3.
Yeah, base very low storm surge though, as very typical because it's not even that strong. So
You have to go to the swamplands to even get a possibility of 3 feet of surge. The swamp.
swamps, of all places. I guess the best thing to talk about is rainfall though, and we might see as much as 6 to 10 inches of rain across most of the southern Florida, including Miami, where Danny's located. Basically all the way up to central northern Florida, even into Tampa Bay. We might even see some places might even get still a cumulative rainfall of upwards of 1 inch, and then the western tip of Cuba 6 to 10 inches, Key West, Miami, all South Florida basically 6 to 10 inches. Then I guess I'd say up to around central Florida we might see people starting to get 4 to 6 inches of rain, and of course this will all amount to flash flooding and some wind, of course, too, because we're talking about a tropical cyclone. But other than that, it's not much, because I guess this is once again a typical early June storm. A lot of moisture, and we can't, I guess, downplay the threat of flash flooding because it is actually the #1 killer when it comes to these storms. But yeah, we're gonna see a lot of that, and we're also gonna see a lot of flash flooding and rain, and of course tornadoes too. Hold on, I'm gonna pull up this SPC to see what they show.
This reminds me a lot like of Trop 2017. I feel like this could be similar to that system.
Wait, what storm?
In terms of impacts. Felipe in 2017, even though it was extra tropical near Florida already, like it did the same stuff. It brought tornadoes and like lots of rain over here.
Yeah.
From it.
Oh yeah, I remember that one. I think it also brought a couple of tornadoes too to South Florida.
It did.
Oh, by the way, by the SPC, there's a marginal risk for severe weather across South Florida Friday and Saturday. Makes sense. And tornado, there's a
Hey, Denio, is it
chance.
just me, or is like the volume a bit lower than normal?
Oh, really?
Yeah, to me it seems a bit lower than normal.
Oh, you guys can't hear me as much?
I can hear you. It's just that you guys are not as loud as I thought it would be.
Oh. I guess I'll try talking a little louder. Does that help?
Maybe.
Oh, whatever. At least it's not as bad as yesterday where nobody could hear me. Yeah, the SPC does have a 2% chance of tornadoes though across South Florida on day 2.
Yeah, so there is a small chance. So there isn't a no chance. So any chance that there is tornadoes, you need to take it seriously because these things are gonna ramp up really quickly, and they could blow right over your house in just minutes.
Yeah, that's true.
One thing about these sheared systems too is that they actually have like a bigger wind field because it's more expanded. So like,
Yeah.
ain't much winds, but 30 miles per hour isn't like something to mess around with at the same time.
I believe, God, I don't know what year it was, but there was this hurricane that once produced an EF4 tornado. The tornado was stronger, huh?
Was it Rita?
I wouldn't be surprised. 2005 was a catastrophe. Let's be honest.
Yeah, and actually reminding me
Rita,
of that,
Wilma, Katrina.
Somebody mentioned though in the chat, Supernova mentioned, is anybody concerned with the CSU forecast for 20 named storms, 10 hurricanes, and 5 major hurricanes? What do we think?
180 ace.
Yeah, that too. What do we think?
Could this be counted as hyperactive?
I think in terms of ace, it is.
Yeah, Ace is hyperactive
I mean,
because it's
maybe, but
above
I'm
160.
talking about a number of storms.
I think it's reasonable to assume and to predict that mainly because we're looking at, have y'all seen the La Nina's really strong?
Yeah.
I just want to quote Mark Settis here because he made a really good point the other
The
day.
GOAT Mark.
If you look at what?
The GOAT Mark.
Yes, Mark Settis.
Yeah.
It's the best. If you look at the surface temperature anomalies in the North Atlantic, and you look off the Iberian Peninsula, you see how there's that hook right there?
Yeah, it's the warm Canary Current.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm actually going to
in
mention
all
that
the
in my...
years that we've had a warm current like that, the Canary Current, we've had hurricane seasons. That is a fingerprint or whatever you want to call it to a
hyperactive season.
Bad hurricane season.
I'm also going to talk about that when it comes to my predictions later on. That was a huge that specific thing is also a very big correlation when it comes to really active seasons, and I think that really influenced Philip Klotspot's forecast.
Also pointed out the very warm sea surface temperatures right next to the very cold sea surface temperatures in the North Atlantic anomalies.
That's very important.
I saw
that's very important too.
I saw a list of something like I say yesterday, Eric Webb or something posted in Twitter, and like it could potentially to 1893 of all years.
1893 easily could have had over like 300 ace, I think, according to some people.
300 ace. Right, we're screwed.
Yeah. The East Coast was like a disaster that year, but we still had a Category 4 landfall in Louisiana.
Hold on, let me look up the 1893 hurricane season. Hold on.
Yeah, that year.
There's a lot of long track and strong hurricanes.
Yeah. And there was also a Category 4 landfall in Louisiana, and I don't think anybody from Louisiana wants to hear that. I'm looking at 91L, and I'm seeing kind of a lot of convection blowing up where we were talking about earlier, that swirl that was off the western tip of Cuba. Could the LLC be kind of going into that swirl?
Yeah. You see that blow up next to Cuba in the Yucatan Channel?
Yeah. Could the LLC...
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Looking at the closest thing we have, which is the 1893 season for the analog, apparently, we got 12 named storms, 10 hurricanes, and 5 majors. I'm trying to find the ace right now.
Like 230 something.
I don't think it has any reliable ace recorded, but a lot of people speculate it was over 300 just because of how many majors there were and how long they lasted for.
Yeah.
I don't know if this is reliable data. This is from the Weather GOM. I don't know if it's, but they're saying in 1893 the ace was 231, and the ace in 2005 was 245.
So around the same value.
Data. That's the official data. That's the official NOAA data for the season.
And the source is from this Colorado State University.
Yeah, that's the official NOAA data, so... Damn, somebody gotta check Twitter, though, to see what people say, because I guess that could be a real big source of information on what's going on with 91L real time. Let me see myself. See if there's anything on Twitter. Just people talking. Nothing on Twitter, though. But I guess now is a good time to ask, how's everybody doing?
Well, I'm doing pretty good.
I guess I'm going to the Keys tomorrow.
Or you're gonna go chase will likely be future Alex.
I mean, at least for Gust, I guess so. It's gonna look like shit, but whatever.
Yeah. Maybe by tomorrow we'll get Alex as a named storm. Hopefully, because I don't want to be waiting. I always like to say that the National Hurricane Center uses potential tropical cyclones to kind of linger on, like not designate anything.
Like, we don't want to designate it.
No, because it's a piece
It's
of
an
shit.
excuse to wait longer for it.
Yeah, basically. No, I'm being honest with you. I think the low-level center kind of moved a little more east because of the convection.
You think that's a sign of that?
Yeah. I felt like it has. The only thing we'll only be able to see those buoy data and radar. Those would be the main things we'll see overnight to see if this is classifiable at all by tomorrow morning.
I think it'll probably get classified sometime tomorrow, but I'm more leaning towards like the afternoon rather than the morning.
Yeah. But I guess the question after that too, because a lot of models are going really aggressive with this post-Florida landfall. Some models want this to be a hurricane, but a lot of people are also saying that it's also kind of transitioning into an X instead of strengthening to a hurricane. But I mean, it could be both, like according to some other people. I've seen talks about people trying to think that this might be a hurricane post-Florida, or at least a strong tropical storm or strengthening. What do you think? What do you guys think?
I don't think it'll become a hurricane. It could become a strong tropical storm after it moves past Florida, but I'm doubtful it becomes a hurricane.
Yeah.
It's just too much shear. And I mean, look, think about how much convection even Hurricane Nicholas has to have constantly, and it barely made it a hurricane force prior to landfall.
No,
last
I
year.
think the shear kind of drops out before when post Florida it drops down over the system.
I think what's it called? It's only gonna be tropical for another day or two. Like I feel like the shear is gonna have already messed it up too much. So I don't think it'll really give it much of a chance to get more than like 65 miles per hour.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah, shear's gonna be a
even
big problem with this thing.
even 65 miles an hour is a pretty, because right now the Hurricane Center is only saying 40 at landfall.
Yeah. By the way, this is the cone. This is the. Yeah. I got.
So personally, I don't think I feel like 65 is a little far stretch. You know,
I have the
50 miles an hour is what I'm going with.
Yeah.
Because I do think if it keeps going with what it's doing now, it could reach 50 miles an hour.
Yeah.
65, that's, I don't know. Maybe, I mean, who knows? It could always, you know, surprise us and, I don't know, Cat 3 hurricane. No, that's not going to happen.
I would be concerned if that happened.
What?
But yeah, I'd say more like 45, 50 range for landfall.
Yeah, 45,
probably.
50
That's
miles an hour.
Somewhere
I feel
around
like 40
miles,
is a little on the low side, and I'm like, it's already almost at 40 miles an hour.
Yeah.
35 right now. It's only a 5 mile increase. Technically, it only needs a 4 mile per hour increase because 39 is when they is classified as a tropical storm on the Saffir-Simpson hurricane wind scale. Hurricane wind scale. Right.
Yeah. Yeah, but I mean,
I feel like this could top out like in the higher 900s, like 999, 90, 998, 1,000.
Yeah,
probably
before Florida,
before
but we'll have
Florida.
to see what happens after Florida.
Yeah, I don't see the pressure dropping all that much.
Yeah.
Yeah, no.
Probably
It's not going to
a
be.
little bit.
Again, we're not going to see a 930 millibar hurricane making landfall in Florida.
Oh,
Yeah,
hell
no,
no.
thank God,
Hell
no,
no.
that would be devastating.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Hell
no,
no.
that would be that'd be category 4, 140 to 150 miles an hour, maybe 155.
Yeah, wrong
Yeah.
category.
Oh man, the H word, bro.
What?
They have a 990 storm over Florida.
Oh wow.
I mean, like it's
Seven,
not
no.
totally
It's
possible.
690 millibar storm.
It strengthens 4 millibars inland. It doesn't even
Oh.
pass over the Lake Okeechobee.
So it strengthens over land.
Yeah.
Okay, that's stupid. I don't think that's gonna happen.
It could. The brown ocean effect is real.
I mean,
But
like,
it's
it
not-
could, but I don't think it's gonna happen in this case.
No.
Yeah, no, not this case. I don't think so. There was a time was it hurricane was it Harvey where it kind of tried to strengthen over the Yucatan Peninsula when it was redeveloping?
Yeah, but the H
Well,
wave
Harvey
has it in-
redeveloped over the Bay of Campeche because
Yeah.
it like almost died in the Caribbean.
I can't remember which storm it was that redeveloped over land. Not redeveloped. Oh, can't
Well,
get myself straight.
Tropical Storm Julia in 2016 developed over Florida.
Yeah, that.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
993 by Florida, though, is what the H wave has before it does the weird ass thing that Danny said it does. Then it has.
And then it's in the 970s by Sunday morning. No,
Yeah.
What's its wind speed?
70 miles per hour.
I doubt it's gonna get that strong.
970 millibars at 70 miles an hour. The air pressure and the wind speed don't correlate.
It's probably like extra tropical at that point, if I had to guess.
Or transitioning,
Oh, yeah,
because
true.
there'll be like a jet
It
stream
gotta
or
be.
something. Yeah.
You think it could briefly become subtropical after Florida?
Nah,
Or like
I don't
just
think so.
no.
No. I think H wave
Wind
has 47
speed,
knots. 47 knots before Florida at 993 millibars.
So that's close to 60 miles per hour.
47 knots is yeah, that's 50 miles per hour. That's close to 60. Yeah.
Yeah, it currently says that the maximum winds at 1800 UTC were at 34 knots or 40 miles an hour. So it's already above.
So the H wave already has it as a tropical storm.
Yeah. It's already
Yeah, I'm going at 0 hours ahead at June 2nd for 1800 UTC.
I mean, the thing
it
is,
shows
it might
it
not
to
be
be
entirely
at
wrong though, because what if there's tropical storm force winds to like the east?
a
or
tropical
so?
storm already.
So
And
it's
it
in-
shows a landfall between
tropical storm.
993 and 994 millibars with winds between, I guess, close to 60 miles an hour.
I mean, I guess if you want to use the H wave as a resource, though, it does kind of get it a little more concentrated over the next 6 hours. So, I guess for that sake, we'll have to see.
Something I noticed is that convection that was in the Yucatan when near the low level center like faded off, but the one in the western near Cuba is starting to increase.
Interesting. Wonder if a center reformation will occur.
Yeah, there's been a lot of talks about that for a long time. Whether or not a center relocation will happen, we'll have to see.
Personally, I think a relocation will help it out. Maybe it helps it in more favorable conditions, like because for that to happen, you need to be in a more favorable environment for a relocation to happen in the first place.
Well, I think relocations happen because of an unfavorable environment in the first place, and a reformation is kind of like a way for like the storm to more or less save itself.
Yeah.
Like you think where the relocation happens, it's like a more favorable environment compared to where it was in the unfavorable one. I don't know if you get what I mean. Like
Posting like where the reformation occurs is like where the environment gets better.
Yeah. I guess so.
I think that does have that does make a little bit of sense.
Yeah. Also, I do notice though that there's a lot of convection blowing up near the western tip of Cuba, so that might be a sign that there might be something trying to go there. And we all mentioned that there was like a swirl there earlier, and it's still kind of there. So, yeah.
And so looking at that fin north of the western tip of Cuba, It's so weird to see that like little vortex just spinning there. It's just kind of strange.
I mean, like, it's very disorganized, so I'm not surprised that we're seeing like a lot of like a little swirls spinning around in the first place.
Yeah,
True.
that's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah, there's a lot of swirl. When you have a disorganized system, anything can spin, pretty much.
Something we're certain about is that Cuba's getting smoked by rain right now. A ton of it.
Yeah.
And that's only going to spread upward to here.
Yeah,
to
that
Florida.
deep convection towards the south of Isle of
Isle of
that
Youth.
Isle of Youth. There we go.
Yeah.
The Isle of Youth. That convection south of the Isle of Youth is going to move north with the system, and it's going to go over probably Havana, Cuba.
Yeah.
And Havana, Cuba is a major city. It's the capital, I think.
Yeah, it's the capital of Cuba.
Nah, but I'm watching that convection close to the it's blowing up a lot. If you're looking at the satellite as of the recent frames.
It's probably gonna be like again, like 3 days in a row that we wake up in the morning, we're like, wow, it looks decent. And then throughout the day it just goes away.
Nah, but today's hold up a lot better. I'll say that today we saw a lot of things hold up better today. So
that's a good sign. Compared to
it
yesterday,
seems like it's sustained a bit better today.
Yeah. I don't know. We'll just have to see what happens. So I guess so. I saw a lot of talks about models hinting at stuff closer towards mid-June. Like there's small signals on the GFS, and the MJO will be favorable through quite a bit of June through the Western Atlantic. So
yeah, I think I saw Danny Morris tweeted out something about that.
Yeah. And I know Danny that's in the call.
Yeah.
No, I'm talking about Danny Morris. I think he has like some sort of degree in meteorology or something like that.
No, but I was just saying that me and Danny, the one that's in the call, we quite a bit mentioned that there might be something that we have to watch closer towards mid-June too. So
yeah, that would make sense because normally in active seasons, the second storm comes around in like late June, early July.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, and of course this year's an active season, so likely
it's going to be active. Even probably doesn't have it probably even has a shot of being hyperactive too, if I'm being honest.
Yeah. And of course, we have the outlier. It's 2004.
I think there's a higher chance of it being hyperactive than there is of it being slightly below average.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, well yeah, obviously I don't think it's going to be below average anyway. But if you were to compare the chances of it being between solidly hyperactive or hyperactive, I'd lean more towards solidly above average. But there is a chance it could go hyperactive.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I guess the thing is that we can't obviously go jump right into saying it'll be hyperactive till it actually is happening.
Yeah, until it's like we see it like right in front of our eyes.
Yeah.
35 named storms in 2022.
Oh God. Shit. And not a single one becomes a Cat 5.
Oh,
that was frustrating because I was like, Iota had to be a Category 5. I mean, freaking 917 millibars. I mean, 917 millibars for a Category 4 hurricane.
I mean, like Opal in 1995 was a Cat 5. I mean, not a Cat 5, a Cat 4 with 150 mile per hour winds and a 916 millibar pressure. So pressure doesn't mean everything in the end.
Yeah.
I mean, 916 is pretty low for a Category 4.
That's true. It is pretty low, but in the end, it was a Cat 4.
Katrina was 923 millibars on Louisiana, and it was only a Cat 3.
I mean, that was a huge storm. Like Winfield was the biggest we ever seen, I think. With, like,
wait, what storm?
Katrina.
I thought the record for the biggest hurricane force Winfield was Sandy, or is that tropical storm?
Nah, it has to be Sandy of both, because Katrina wasn't that big compared to Sandy, but in the Gulf, it was one of the biggest storms in the Gulf.
What about Ike? Ike was friggin' huge.
No,
Ike was pretty big too. Yeah.
I think Ike is the record for the largest storm in the Gulf. Katrina's like.
Yeah, that's what I heard. I think Ike is one of the largest storms in Atlantic. I mean, I think it's like right behind Sandy in terms of coverage of like how big it was.
Yeah.
Like it's
Irma
cloudy.
was decent. I say Irma was decent too.
Yeah, Irma was huge.
Well, Irma was a monster. I mean, like it was a Cat 5 for almost 3 days straight and barreled through so many land masses on its way here.
It's like the icon of hurricanes if you think about it. I think it's Irma.
Yeah, the modern day
yeah.
icon. The modern day icon. Somebody dropped.
I think that was the puffball dude.
Yeah. Maybe he'll come back.
Look at the wind analysis for Hurricane Ike, because I'm curious. What was the wind field for Hurricane Ike? I'm oddly curious.
I don't know off the top of my head, but it was big. It was especially when it made landfall in Texas.
Yeah.
It's surprising it never reached a major in the Gulf. Like it was already a C2 in the Gulf. Like it's surprising how it maintained the whole time, even though it was like late August, early September.
I think it was supposed to become a major, but like it was so big that I think it ingested a bit of dry air, which like kept its intensity in check.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, hold on. I need
It
to
could be
delete
a
this.
lot of rain. Holy jeez. Wait, that's not real. Hold up. That's not real.
What are you seeing?
There's like this giant map where there were tropical storm force winds and hurricane Ike, and hurricane force winds in Louisiana. Like, wait, hold up. That's not
What?
real.
What
Here,
source
I'll
are you
send
looking at?
National Hurricane Center.
I mean, like, if that's what it says on there, it's probably true. Ike was a huge storm.
Examples.
So I see. Yeah, I saw like a map and it shows like western Louisiana, very western on border of it having hurricane force winds, or like in the wind field of it.
Let me just copy image and paste this into the Discord thingy.
Yeah, I'm
I mean,
playing.
just
I'm playing
I
the
had
thing
no
on
idea the
stream.
hurricane, even the tropical storm force wind field was just that huge.
God damn, that's huge. I'm playing it on the stream right now. It's huge. Wow.
Hey, that's I didn't realize how because I knew Ike got really big because I don't know why Ike got big. I just not realized that. I don't know why it just blew up in size. I assume there was higher moisture content in the atmosphere and less wind shear or something like that.
Also,
there
I
was
guess
a higher moisture content in the atmosphere, and so it was able to grow larger in size.
I guess this is not important since not much has changed, but the new advisory for potential tropical cyclone 1 is out, and it's the same exact thing. So
Still 90-90 odds of development.
yeah.
Okay.
Up to 100% at this point.
Literally nothing changed in this advisory.
Nah.
Yeah, I wouldn't expect anything to change really at all.
Except
they just issued tropical storm watch for the Bahamas. That's all they added.
A tropical storm watch for the Bahamas?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that's it. Other than that, that's it. Somebody asked what are the chances for a major hurricane in the Lesser Antilles this year?
For this year?
Yeah.
I mean, like, it's there. It can happen or it cannot happen.
I think they're above average compared to usual.
Yeah.
Danny, you saw the chance of a major hurricane passing within Florida from the CSU's forecast, right?
Yeah, it said like 50%.
49%. Yeah.
Within 50 miles. That's actually kind of crazy. 98 for tropical storm.
Well, we're about to get that, so that's already going to be high.
That's already a guarantee.
At this point, yeah.
All right, for clarification, I'm just going to read out the tropical storm watches out in effect. And first of all, we have the west coast of Florida, obviously, from Florida south of the middle of Longboat Key, east coast of Florida south of the Louisa Brevard County line, Florida Keys, including the Dry Tortugas, Lake Okeechobee, the Florida Bay, the Cuban provinces of Matanzas, Maya Beque, Havana, Artemisa, Pinar del Rio, and the Isle of Youth, and of course there's tropical storm watches for the Northwest Bahamas too. All of these are tropical storm watches. No tropical storm warnings are in effect yet.
I think some warnings are probably going to come at the 11 p.m. advisory, especially for like Cuba and the Florida Keys.
Yeah.
The Keys are already going to get the worst impacts tomorrow night.
Yeah, tomorrow night through Saturday is when it's going to be like the worst for us and for them.
I'm to the National Weather Service, and they're literally saying that for southern Florida, there's a tropical storm warning.
Wait, really?
But this is showing off the coast of Florida.
Oh, off the coast. Okay.
It literally says this: tropical storm warning. Seas given at significant wave heights, which is the average height of the highest of 1/3 of the waves. Individual waves may be more than twice the significant wave height. They're just a tropical storm warning.
Oh, so like in the water, right?
Yeah,
I guess, but
yeah, makes sense.
The only ones that we see for the NHC are for land, not for the ocean, I think.
I was just like, wait, they have them. I didn't know they could issue tropical storm warnings for the water.
Yeah,
that's
me neither.
Yeah, the marine.
I kind of did, but like they just don't talk about that. But there's a warning already, so that means it's probably imminent for Florida. It's probably going to spread here soon.
Yeah. And also,
the little things you learn.
Yeah, if you want to see the watches and warnings for your local area, and also the rain forecast for your local area, go to weather.gov, which is the National Weather Service website, and you can see basically down to your local area what exactly will happen. Very, very big important thing, especially for later in the season, and that goes for anybody. If you got a hurricane impacting your area, you want to see the down to specific local specifics on what might happen for you, go to the National Weather Service. They have all the information there. Very important. Very important. I'll just show you. You could go on like the map, and wherever you are, just click wherever you are, and it'll take you to that area. For instance, I'm in New York, and I could click on the New York area, and it'll take me right there. So just do that for wherever you are. Just click it, and you'll be able to see the latest information. Damn, that wind field's huge. From Ike. That was huge.
Yeah, I didn't realize it was, because I knew the storm was big. I didn't realize the hurricane force and the tropical storm force wind field were massive. That's crazy. I'm like, are we looking at a typhoon or a hurricane? Because usually typhoons have huge wind fields. Like, I assume Haiyan was like incredibly huge.
Haiyan was a decently sized storm. It wasn't too small, but it wasn't massive like Ike, for example.
I feel like it was big size. I feel like it would be weaker because they'll have to like use more of its energy with its size, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, the conservation of angular momentum principle. Like when a smaller storm can be more stronger because it conserves more of the energy in one spot.
Nah, I saw a comparison of Ike in the Gulf compared to Katrina.
The storm that made landfall in the Bahamas, Dorian, had a smaller eye. Like, let's say it had a Wilma-sized eye. It could have been close to 195 mile an hour hurricane.
Yo,
Dorian was solidly 180 to 185 miles per hour. I don't know about 195.
Yo, Nate.
No. If it had a Wilma-sized eye.
Oh, if it was smaller, then yeah, maybe.
Nate's here.
Oh, Nate's eye was like.
Yo, Nate.
So, yo, how you doing? Better late than never.
Yeah. All right. Now, but I saw a comparison between Haiyan and Katrina in the Gulf, and Haiyan takes the whole Gulf in size. So Haiyan was huge.
Oh, I think I know what picture you're talking about. Oh,
yeah.
God.
Yeah.
I'll be back.
Okay, bye.
He comes
As soon
and
as he comes, he leaves.
Yeah. All right. So latest frames. I'm just gonna refresh it real quick.
I mean, I feel like what makes Irma so impressive is because of how big it was, and it still almost became 185. You know,
Yeah.
it was 180, and it was that big of a size. I feel like if it was like Andrew type size, I feel like it could have had a run for 190.
It probably would have been a bit stronger, yeah.
Yeah, I'm seeing the convection blowing up over close to the western tip of Cuba, though. The westernmost tip. When I'm talking about western tip, I mean the real westernmost tip of Cuba. There's a lot of convection blowing up there.
Pinar del Rio province.
I think just to even more to the east of, to the west of there, like the tip of it.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah, that's like
Yeah,
really like Western Cuba.
A lot of like just off that area. There's a lot of convection blowing up. I guess that might be where the LLC will try to relocate, though, because I saw that the convection from the Yucatan was kind of connecting with that convection that's going on there right now. So maybe we're seeing a relocation.
It's like where it was expected to be this time today. Like yesterday, models were having it like around there. Like, so if it changes to there, I don't think it will really have many implications to the track at all.
Yeah. Lily V1008 is saying we dodged a bullet with Dorian. Absolutely, with Florida.
Oh, for Florida?
Yeah.
I think I'm gonna get more impacts with this system than I did with Dorian.
Had Dorian made landfall as a 180 mile per hour hurricane in Florida, it probably would have been one of the costliest disasters in the United States.
Nah, the costliest.
I mean, the way it stalled, though, imagine it did what it did in the Bahamas, bro. Imagine. Like, it stalled as a Cat 5 180 for, like, a whole day straight in the same location.
Well, it weakened, but yeah, it stalled for, like, a little over a day. I think it was, like, 30 to 36 hours, and then it finally moved off.
That's what saved Florida 100%.
Yeah.
But Bahamas got completely leveled off. Like, Grand Bahama Island just became irrelevant after that.
Well, Grand Bahama Island was mostly flooded, but Great Abaco Island and Marsh Harbor was utterly annihilated by that thing.
Yeah. Now I guess the question is, what will be the big storm that we all talk about for centuries coming this year? That'll come this year. I guess we'll have to see.
Well, I mean, I hope all the strong storms head out to sea this year, but it's not really a guarantee.
Nah, and I'll talk about it in a little bit with my forecast. It's not looking like we'll see a lot of out to sea storms.
Like, I don't know, like, I feel like Iota is kind of forgotten because it made landfall similar location to Katrina, but it's kind of like not as talked as much, you know.
Ida.
Because Ida. Even though it was almost a C5 at landfall, it's not talked too much about. I guess just
not in Louisiana, but in the Northeast. Yeah, we got a lot of shit in the Northeast.
Oh yeah, Ida's remnants spawned like a mini tornado outbreak in New Jersey, right?
Yeah, I think so. And also a lot of
I remember that.
Flash flood emergency the first time ever in New York City.
I think there was also a tornado emergency at one point.
I don't know about that, but I definitely know about the flash flood emergency for New York.
Yeah, it was bad up there.
Yeah.
What shocked me about last year the most was in Ida, but like the actual ending of the year, like nothing happened.
Yeah.
I think there was too much. I think there was too much troughing in the Caribbean. That's why like the Caribbean was dead late season last year, even though there was a La Nina.
And also MJO too.
I think so. It was in a suppressive phase.
Nah, it was in a. I think MJO was supposed to come into the Atlantic, but also I guess the real strong Atlantic Nino we had that kind of pushed a lot of things to the south.
Yeah, that messed up a lot of stuff as well.
And there was also arguments that kind of did help Larry and Sam a little bit because they were a little bit further south where the warm waters were. Because the MDR in general was not super warm in 2021. Of course, by the time it got to September, it did warm up enough to sustain major hurricanes, but it was not as warm as we would expect it for a hyperactive season. But because of the Atlantic Nino and, the ITCZ being a lot further south, I guess people argue that it helped Larry and Sam get strong. But of course, we also had a lot of troughing in the Atlantic that it also caused both of them to go out to sea. When the pattern
I
would
feel
have
like
been
2021
conducive for
reminded me a
landfalls.
little bit of 2019 in a way. Like it was like weird. Like it was kind of similar the way it played out. We
Yeah,
had like
that's true.
late August to early September system and like with Iota and Dorian, and then like September wasn't much,
Ida.
you know.
God damn, you be saying
Well,
Iota.
September 2019 had Humberto and Lorenzo, so there's that.
I mean September like what's it called in this last year had Nicholas and Sam, like it was like
Nicholas, Larry, and Sam, yeah.
Yeah.
And then like the ending was kind of weird, like for how like the beginning was, you know, like 2019 ending wasn't that impressive either, compared to like August and September.
Yeah, but last year completely had a complete shut off, like 2006, basically. Right? Yeah. I remember 2006 did not even have anything after early October.
Oh, because I think there was an El Nino or something that happened.
A rapidly developing El Nino, but I guess for a La Nina, which we had last year's late season, so a lot of people.
There was something I saw like in the Wikipedia. It's Wikipedia, of course, but like it did say something about like an Azores high messing everything up with the pattern.
A lot of dry air from the Azores high causing.
How would an Azores high mess everything up, other than the steering?
Because
of dry something air. I read like it's
dry
like
air.
Enhanced dry air.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And of course the El Nino was shear, so yeah, nothing was able to happen.
It's kind of like what happened in early 2018, like drier, like because of like how the high pressure was, kind of like made it a slow start.
And then like early September, like things completely blew up in the Atlantic. There's Florence, Gordon, Helen, Isaac, and then Michael eventually happened in mid-October.
Yeah. Florence and Michael, of course, ultimately were the biggest storms. Are there any negative factors that could impact the hurricane season to stop a hyperactive season this year? Dry air. But honestly, 2022 also had it. Dry air in the early season. 04 as well. I guess it all just really depends what happens throughout August and September, and if things are conducive within that specific time period because of the general background state, because we always look for the background state that's also favorable, that would then eventually help, of course, what happened in the specific time frame for August and September, which is ultimately what happens in a lot of these hyperactive seasons, excluding 05, which was basically active from start to end. But you notice 2004, 2017, 1998, 1999, a lot of them didn't really, it had that few weeks period in August and September where it was just producing nonstop. And it was because of the general background state was favorable for when an MJO came through, it favored everything throughout the peak season. So, I mean, other than dry air, it's really itself that could stop the season. And of course, if the sea surface temperatures do kind of cool down a little bit, but of course you could see a huge.
I feel like all in all, it just has to do with like the way the high pressure works. Like that's the only way that I feel like the season's gonna be stopped is like high pressure has like issues like with dry air, but like so basically dry air is the only issue really.
Yeah.
And like that happened, like that's the only way I feel like it's gonna be below hyperactive unless like SSDs fall off too.
Yeah. But I mean, we also have the WHAM that will probably warm everything up by July in the MDR and keep things warm. Tyler Wilkins, 1001, asks, could this year be like 2005, 2020, if not
Absolutely not. 2005 was an anomaly. That won't happen again for a long time.
2022. 2020
I mean, 2020 had more storms, but like it still wasn't 05, you know?
Yeah, basically.
2005 had more quality.
2005 had 3 Category 5 hurricanes.
4.
2 of those were greater than 155 knots.
4. Emily, Katrina, Rita, and Wilma.
Hurricane Rita peaked at 175. Hurricane Katrina peaked at 175. Hurricane Wilma peaked at 180, 85, right?
No, Rita peaked at 180, and Wilma peaked at 185. And then we also had
Rita actually has a case for 185.
Wait, Rita was 185?
No, not officially, but it has a case for 185. 185.
Yeah, that storm was
Oh, okay.
really
I don't know.
big,
I think it was
intensifying in the Gulf.
175 last I checked.
I think
and
it's
I think
180 officially.
Hurricane Wilma is the strongest storm in the Atlantic in terms of air pressure.
Yeah,
880 millibars.
and then there was
880. Yeah, that's just
yeah.
incredible, man.
There was
There,
also
there's a,
Emily. There
it
was
was
also
190
Emily
as well
too.
for Wilma, I think.
Yeah, a lot of
I
some
don't think
people.
Wilma was 190.
It was. I mean, that eye though was extremely tiny. Like, I mean, I think they said it was 2 miles wide.
Yeah.
And
Also,
Emily as well, like
yeah, Emily July
that's-
Category
yeah,
5
that was-
too. That was also
That was
a really
that
big
04?
year. No, it was
Which one?
05. Emily 05.
Emily?
nah, it was 05.
That was 05. Oh, shit.
It was the July Category 5.
Isn't that the only one in record?
Yeah,
I think so.
there was only one Category 5
Oh,
ever
wow.
recorded in July. Yeah,
So there were 4 Category 5s.
yeah.
Made landfall in the US.
Nah, but very close. It made landfall in northern Mexico.
That
Okay.
eye though when Wilma was just, and Emily is interesting.
I feel like it should have been retired.
Emily was a small system. It looks like.
Hey guys,
Look
I'm
very
sorry,
big
but
at
I
all.
gotta go.
All right. I'm literally about to do my predictions, but
I gotta go for a couple of minutes, but I'll come back in like a couple of minutes. So
all right,
let's see.
All right.
All right, peace, guys.
all right.
See you later.
I'm gonna do my predictions in a little bit. So, I'm gonna do my predictions in a little bit. So, I guess before that, you guys got any predictions for the season?
So first off, I'm just going to talk a little bit about my idea for what I see of the hurricane season coming. So first off, I think that the hurricane season is going to be above average. Everything is there. I think I forgot what the current was. The one off the Iberian Peninsula.
Canary Current.
The Canary Current. That is a big sign. The warm and cold sea temperature anomalies right next to each other in the North Atlantic. That's a big sign. And then, of course, the warm sea temperatures in the MDR and the La Nina is very, very prominent. Last I checked, let me just check it again, just to see the sea surface temperatures. It's still pretty prominent. I think it is starting to come down a little bit, or like level out a little bit. I'm not really too sure.
A little bit. It extends into the West Pacific.
Yeah.
Yeah, the La Nina is to the West Pacific there, off the coast of Papua New Guinea. So I think that, it's going to be above average hurricane season for sure. I don't think it's going to be as bad as 2020. Definitely nothing like 2005, that's for sure.
Hopefully not.
I think, up to 20 named storms, that's reasonable.
Yeah.
Up to 5 major hurricanes, that's also reasonable. Based on what we're seeing here and based on past seasons similar to this, with what we're seeing here, I think it's reasonable to say we could have up to 20 named storms, up to 5 major hurricanes. I think that's reasonable for next year.
Yeah.
Yeah. What about you, Nate?
Well, I don't really think much different. I do agree. We could see 20 storms again. We have at least 19. That would mean that we had 70 storms in the 2020 decade. That's crazy. Yeah, 5 majors seems reasonable as well. I think we have the pattern of 4. I don't see anything under 4. The hurricanes, I've seen a lot of forecasts where 6 to 8 is in the forecast. To be honest, I feel like this season's quality will be a bit underrated. Not sure. I feel like anything too close to the average might not turn out to verify well, but we still have a long way to go.
Yeah.
I think something around 10 hurricanes is reasonable. So yeah. So ACE. Um, I do think we have the pattern to produce a hyperactive season, even barely. I think at worst we should barely miss out, like 150 or somewhere around there. Um, Only way I see something like that not happening at this point, the arm pool in the southwestern Atlantic, in the Bermuda Triangle, if that gets too warm, that might cause some stability issues, but
Yeah, a lot of people
considering
been
it's so
talking about
close
it. Yeah,
to America, I don't think that it's going to be that much of a problem. In fact, I think it might even be a problem in and of itself because it might just enhance the possibility of hurricane landfall on the east coast.
yeah, we'll see.
If the ridge is strong enough.
Yeah,
Um,
I guess
so
we'll have to see.
I think we should have a season with very decent ACE value.
All right, now I'm gonna reveal I'm gonna do my predictions, right? All right, I'm gonna start the slideshow. Now you guys should see on the screen a slideshow. The June 2022 hurricane predictions. We're going to include the Atlantic and the East Pacific. But first, what I want to talk about is what are the active season ingredients. Well, first of all, we know that no El Nino is needed. We also need warm sea surface temperatures across the MDR, low wind shear to support tropical development, and very importantly, too, favorable MJO pattern that will support tropical waves and the development in the Atlantic. These are all, I guess, what you would call pieces of the puzzle that we have to put together every single year to determine whether or not a year will be active in the Atlantic. And I guess it also kind of goes to the East Pacific too, whether or not there will be an El Nino to determine whether it'll be active or not. But it's also kind of reversed. El Nino tends to favor active seasons in the East Pacific, while not as much as in the Atlantic, and of course reverse for La Nina. But these are all pieces of the puzzle, and we need to see what will happen this year, and of course, we'll be talking about that very shortly. But what are the other predictions that we've gotten so far? I was trying to see if AccuWeather updated their predictions, but it seems like they have not yet done so. But as of the latest predictions, which came out all the way in late March, early April, they predict 16 to 20 named storms, 6 to 8 hurricanes, and 3 to 5 major hurricanes. The CSU, which they put out today, and somebody mentioned it earlier, 20 named storms, 10 hurricanes, 5 major hurricanes. The TSR's latest prediction is 18 named storms, 8 hurricanes, 4 major hurricanes. The NOAA's prediction is 14 named storms, 6 to 10, 14 to 21 named storms, 6 to 10 hurricanes, 3 to 6 major hurricanes. And the North Carolina State University forecast, which was released sometime in mid-April, they're going for 17 to 21 named storms, 6 to 9 hurricanes, and 3 to 5 major hurricanes. The UK Met offices, and I kind of found this kind of surprising because they usually don't go too aggressive, but they're going for 18 named storms, 9 hurricanes, and 4 major hurricanes, and their ACE is also kind of high too, and it caught a lot of people by surprise. So that should say something. The University of Arizona, though, the most bearish of the bunch for this year. They're going for 14 named storms, 7 hurricanes, and 3 major hurricanes. Very, very bearish, in my opinion. They're basically going for an average
that one
season.
caught me off guard.
Yeah, me too. But I mean, they always go for it. I mean, yeah.
That they just said this is going to be the most average season possible. They didn't even bother putting up a proper forecast.
Yeah, the Weather Channel, though, their latest forecast was in April. 20 named storms, 8 hurricanes, and 4 major hurricanes. In my forecast, well, you'll see in a minute. All right, but just real quick, I just want to review the sea surface temperatures that are across the globe, and I guess we could apply this already to some of the factors we have here. One thing you notice is the blues in the Pacific associated with the very strong La Nina that we have ongoing right now, very potent. It's not necessarily a super strong one, but it's very potent, and it's a very huge factor as to this hurricane season. And of course, a very warm MDR, as noted by the oranges and the bright yellows across the MDR, a decently above normal MDR, and also mostly entirely above normal basin, except for this area in the subtropics too. And we also talked about this earlier, the Canary Current, and this is also a very big important factor too. This very big horseshoe that basically extends all the way from Greenland down to the Canary Currents. This ring, I guess you could say, this horseshoe ring. And a lot of people are talking about this being a very big concern because this very much correlates with very, very active seasons. And this is, and as Arya said earlier, it's the fingerprint, the hallmark of a very active season. And you could really clearly see this, especially when you compare it to active seasons, like truly active seasons. You can see things correlate pretty well, don't they? A very huge cold pool along the equatorial Pacific, a very defined horseshoe in the Atlantic, and this is, by the way, May, the general May pattern, and just comparing this to early June of now, basically see correlates very well. With the pattern now, we have a huge horseshoe extending all the way from the Canary Current and the deep tropics too, which is basically what we have this year, and it's very defined, and compared to years on average, such as years like 2020, 2021, 2017, 2010, 2005, 2004, 2003, basically all the hyperactive seasons we've had so far in the active era compares pretty well. So that's very important. The Atlantic sea surface temperature is up close. You can basically see, as we talked about earlier, though, that subtropical warm pool. Very interesting, too, and that's very reflective, of course, of the actual sea surface temperature is the Gulf of Mexico. And a lot of people also talked about this loop current as well. Very huge concern. And I'll actually go in deep about it a little bit later on. But we have a very warm Gulf, and you can clearly see it, too, here represented on all the sea surface temperature maps too, as well across the entire Gulf of Mexico, entirely 26 degrees Celsius, and I don't even think entirely 26 degrees Celsius and higher. I think honestly too, entirely 27 Celsius and higher as well. And who joined?
Yo, it's me. What's going on?
No, I'm just talking about
Talking about the hurricane season predictions.
Oh,
yeah,
and our reasoning behind it.
Yeah, I'm first explaining the reasoning.
Wait, Danilo, are you presenting?
Yeah, on my channel.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I thought you were presenting here.
Yeah, but make sure there's no feedback. So turn off the audio on the feedback.
Right.
I don't know. I don't like hearing my own voice for some reason. But yeah, just a very warm Gulf of Mexico. And that's been basically consistent throughout the whole year too, which also makes it interesting. And there's also been a lot of talk about the loop current as well being a very huge concern, and I'll go into depth about that a little bit later on. But in general, I guess what we could take, what if you're going to take anything out from what I'm seeing right now, is the Atlantic is warm, and that is a big factor as to the season. The ENSO outlook too, as we kind of break it down. A lot of the blues across the equatorial Pacific, a La Nina is in place, and if you look at the forecast going forward, basically through the rest of the year, by the CPC IRI, if you remember those, the early May forecasts, the La Nina chances stay the highest throughout the whole year. So basically, no concern of the ENSO on whether or not we'll see an El Nino that tries to come in and suppress the season. It's not looking likely at all. In fact, the La Nina chances basically stay high throughout the whole season, and they kind of cap down a little bit by the time we get to the middle of the season, closer towards the summer, which is the JAS, which stands for, by the way, what you're looking at here on the right is these three letters basically representing tri-monthly periods. So basically, as example, and also the most important time that we should be watching, ASO stands for August, September, October, and basically by that time you see also as well La Nina chances remain the highest, above 50% on the model map thing that the CPC here has, and basically that means the persistence of the sea surface temperature anomalies across the Pacific being a below normal, and of course, as the general picture is, it basically is a favorable sign for the Atlantic too. The Mjo forecast, as we also talked about earlier, basically just to bring it down to you, all the models have a very favorable look. The JMA, I'll say, is quite aggressive. They have a very huge sinking air in the Pacific. And by the way, if you don't even know what I'm talking about, basically we're talking about MJO, which stands for Madden-Julian Oscillation. And what that is basically rising and sinking air in the atmosphere. And basically, what these models are representing is where the rising air and the sinking air in the atmosphere is. And sinking air, as we know, is basically suppressive motion, downward motion in the atmosphere, which would suppress thunderstorm activity that we need and is associated with stuff like tropical waves or developing tropical systems. They need a lot of moisture and a lot of thunderstorm action to get them going. And a sinking motion of the MJO will not favor that. However, a rising motion, which is represented in the greens and on this map by the JMA. This is the JMA right here that I'm pointing to. Oh, wait, change slides. Okay, now we go. We're back. The JMA in the oranges and then in the blues on the JMA represents the rising motion. And on these two maps here are the greens. Those represent areas of where the most amount of rising air is, and the CFS kind of has that closer towards the Maritimes and a lot of sinking air in the Atlantic. But there's actually a lot of talks about how that actually does correlate with hyperactive seasons even more than if the MJO signals in the Atlantic. And you could clearly tell, though, what I mean by the JMA being the most aggressive is because they have it in the Maritimes around the Indian Ocean area, and also in the Atlantic too, the Eastern Atlantic, which is very favorable. And then we also have a very huge sinking motion in the East Pacific, which is what all these three models have. And basically, that's a very hallmarkish sign, I guess, that we have the La Nina there, and it's very suppressive for the Pacific, and it'll continue to be suppressive, basically, as the climate models show it, and the CPC has it too. So that's something to check off. And what is the correlation to the MJO to the active seasons? I guess it basically speaks for itself. Would correlate very well, especially with the JMA and the CANSIPS model, which is, by the way, this model. And basically, what I mean by JMA and CANSIPS are these climate models that basically project what we'll see going forward, basically. And you can see the correlations to the active seasons, very huge, less favorable conditions in the Pacific, and very huge, more favorable conditions across the Atlantic and the maritime continents, and also the placing too. Man, the placings, goddamn, they're very similar. The ridging forecast in this more or less goes with landfalls, and we'll also talk about this a little bit too. Most of the model consensus is basically looking at the CFS towards the CANSIPS to the European too. All of them have this ridge that's also by the Northeast and also by Greenland. That too is also kind of a hallmark too of active seasons with active landfall seasons, because we won't always have an active season with the active landfall season in the United States and the West Atlantic. But one thing you do notice too is we have this huge ridge that's over by Greenland and the Northeast too, and basically centered over the Western Atlantic. The European has it most aggressive, and as well as this model here called the C3S ensemble, and I think that's a new model this year, so maybe we might have the best insight from that. They all basically show the same though, a strong ridging across the Northeast and the Northwestern Atlantic, which is very strong in correlation to active seasons with active landfall seasons beside it too, and I'll explain more about it in a little bit. The African monsoon, though, as I talked about, that basically is the monsoon over Africa, which produces the tropical waves. If you ever hear, especially for those dummies that don't know much about hurricane season and how atmospherically this all works, basically what we do track for hurricane development the most is these things called tropical waves, and these are waves of thunderstorms that move off the coast of Africa, and they have a little bit of like a, on the surface when it comes to their wind pattern, they kind of have like a little bit of an indent. So basically, let me explain this. There are these trade winds that move off the coast of Africa across the Atlantic Ocean, and how you can tell there's a tropical wave is if there's a little bit of an indent in a northward indent in those waves That's basically how you tell a tropical wave. And it's always the saying that the westerly winds help when it comes to closing off those waves and kind of developing a circulation that rotates and develops into a storm. And basically, that's what's represented here. And also, what's a very huge factor is the African monsoon, which, number one, determines how much waves are produced. If it's strong, then we'll see a lot of waves, and also depending on how strong, too, will depend on how strong the waves are, which means how healthy they will be going out in the Atlantic. And that also goes back to La Nina and all that. So I guess you could already tell the picture that this is all connected, right? um, but when it comes to the African monsoon, it's also very important too as to how strong it is. And that one way we look at it is looking at the 700 millibar zonal winds, basically through January, through basically most of the year so far. And one thing you do see in the oranges that you do see here are representative of lower level westerly winds, the 700 millibar level in the atmosphere, which is roughly where the indication for a tropical cyclone is the strongest. If that's the best way to explain it, the best indication for a developing tropical system, the best indication of the vorticity and how its circulation is developing, it's the strongest there. And hold on, give me a second. Oh, nothing. Jenny, I saw your message, by the way.
I didn't want to interrupt you.
Nah, it's all right. But yeah, what we're saying is the 700 millibar zonal wind is basically the representative of the strongest indication of a tropical cyclone, and basically what you can see here, the westerly winds very strong across the Atlantic, indicative of a very African monsoon, a very active African monsoon year too, and that's also a very big factor. And precipitable water, I guess that this kind of speaks for itself. Surface precipitable water, how much precipitable water there is in the atmosphere, and throughout most of the year, there's been a lot of precipitable water off the coast of Africa, which is also indicative of the African monsoon that's active and would also favor the year. And most of the models keep the monsoon over Africa, basically what we're talking about here. A lot of precipitation in the areas that we need to see for an African monsoon that's active this year, and that will also really indicate conditions in the Atlantic. I guess when it comes to tropical waves, it also does have to do with the zonal wind forecast and how the zonal winds are moving in the atmosphere in the Atlantic too, because the African monsoon affects that too as well. But I guess the thing is, when it comes to African monsoon, that we're worried about the most is how strong it is to determine how much strong waves we'll see, how much strong healthy waves that might develop into storms, depending where they are in the Atlantic. How much chances, basically, how much chances will there be for storm development in the Atlantic this year? How much opportunities will Africa produce with the waves that move off? How much of that will be, and an active monsoon means more chances, obviously, with common sense, of course. And that's basically the representative that we have here. And finally, the most important factor is wind shear. And one thing we do notice is all the model consensus has blues across the Atlantic, if you do notice, and that is, if you're not aware, basically representative. We have low wind shear and below normal wind shear, which correlates to another factor, that there's below normal wind shear that will favor an active season. And now something I like to do to compare and contrast to see how well this year correlates with those real active seasons is to look at the MJO. And as I did say earlier, the MJO so far through this year is very active, and you compare that to real active seasons, it's also I guess there's a pretty good correlation. We have MJO that's by Eastern Africa. We then have MJO2 that's also strong in the maritime continent. That's also noticeable this year, and also in the most active years. This is the most active years column, including years like 2020 and such. A lot of MJO there. And I guess the thing that correlates the least is the fact that we have a lot of rising motion near South America. This year, it's not as much the case. I guess it's because a lot of years, it's very weird, but during the springtime, like the the preseason, I guess, before the real active years. It always seems like a lot of these real active years, not always, but a lot of these real active years come off El Ninos or neutrals, and years like '05 and '04 came off neutrals and El Ninos. And years like even 2010, 2017 came off a La Nina, but we had a lot of warm waters near South America. People were thinking that it was going to form into an El Nino. You guys remember that, right? 2017, a lot of warm waters early on in the year. Off South America, a lot of people were thinking it was going to form into El Nino, but it ended up not. I guess that's not the correlation, the least amount of correlation we have there, but I guess it's not as important because of the fact that we have a La Nina in place this year, and I guess no El Nino is basically the main important thing that we really need to focus on. We can't go into the specifics. We can't get meticulous. I guess that's we can't get specific with everything too much. Sometimes we got to look at the bigger picture, and the general picture is we'll have a La Nina in place this year, so that's the most important. Yeah. You want to say anything?
I was gonna
I
say
don't have anything to say.
I was gonna say that I think 2017 briefly was neutral, like before the season started, right?
Yeah. Actually, most of the year, most of
I
the
think
season.
it was neutral during ASO, like barely neutral.
Yeah, it was almost La Nina by the time we got to peak season, but it went to La Nina right after peak season.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of funny because it didn't really have that good of a ending to the season. It had that October major, but other than that, it wasn't really good or great, if you want to say that.
Yeah, I guess so. But we also have a correlation with the United States landfalls. So we looked at the MJO, now we're looking at the United States landfalls, and I guess this also correlates very well too. We have a huge ridge over the Northeast Atlantic, and we look at this year, and we look at the correlation with U.S. hurricane landfalls. This year, we're forecasting, by the way, this is where my arrow is. This is the forecast for this year, and you compare the two, they're also pretty similar. Very huge ridge over the Northwest Atlantic, closer towards the Northeast United States, off the East Coast. Both years, both diagrams. One, of course, having this year. Both seems to match up pretty well. And of course, when it comes to the African monsoon, the zonal winds also there very much as well. Very strong zonal winds were present. Very strong westerly zonal winds were present off Africa during the early parts of the years in all the active years, and especially this year's even stronger. Can you imagine? It's also even stronger off the coast this year of Africa. Off the coast of Africa this year, a lot of the zonal winds are much stronger there too. So that's also a very concerning sign as well. When it comes to global forecasts, the global precipitation forecast compared to all the other years, what do you notice too? It's also similar, especially off the maritime continents, which is, as I did say with the MJO, it's very indicative too. Here you can basically see the MJO forecast is very prominent in the Maritimes, and as I did say before, MJO is very strong in those active years in the maritime continent, and you can see that correlating very well as a very strong African monsoon. The European forecast, by the way, is showing that very prominent, and you compare that to the very active seasons, correlates pretty well, especially on the European, though if you look at the forecast for the precipitation in the Caribbean, pretty concerning if you ask me. And the United States precipitation forecast for active years, one thing you do notice, August to October, off the coast of the United States, there tends to be a correlation with the precipitation in the Gulf, and that correlates pretty well between the years, connecting with each other. This year has a lot of precipitation forecasted in the Gulf, which could be indicative of some activity across as well as off the East Coast. And if you compare these two, they look pretty similar, I guess, right? So that might be an indication of an active season 2 there. So that'll be something we need to watch too. All right, so I guess a summary of everything that I mentioned. What is the checklist for this year that we have comparing to all the things that we have. So basically, what is a checklist that we have of things this year? And of course, the biggest thing that we mentioned, El Nino, nada, we don't have it. La Nina, yes, we have it. Si, we have it. Strong African monsoon, we also have it. Low wind shear, that's forecasted. Favorable MJO correlates very well with active seasons. High wind shear, nada. We're in a La Nina, so of course there's a lot more of a favorable pattern for low wind shear. Weak trade winds, we saw the zonal winds, a lot of strong westerlies throughout the year so far, correlated with the monsoon, so that's very favorable. And of course, as I mentioned earlier, the correlation between the MDR and how the Atlantic is very, very similar to those in active years as total. So, with that being said, y'all ready for my forecast for the year? Ready?
Yeah, but
All right, here we go. The forecast is for the 2022 Atlantic hurricane season. I'm expecting 25 named storms, 12 hurricanes, 6 major hurricanes, and 8 to 10 U.S. tropical storm landfalls. Thoughts?
aggressive, but it could happen.
What do you think the eighth? What is your eighth prediction?
I don't know. I didn't include it because I'm not that great with ace, but I'd say around 185 to 190.
That sounds like the top end. That sounds like what you could, if it doesn't, if nothing wrong happens for the season, then that's what it sounds like.
Yeah. And the
And
2022,
nothing at all.
yeah, the 2022 Pacific hurricane season forecast. 17 named storms, 7 hurricanes, and 4 major hurricanes, with a total impacts of 1 to 3 on Mexico. And by the way, this does include the already Agatha that we had.
It includes it.
Yeah.
Um,
So we'll probably see 16 more named storms, 6 more hurricanes, and an additional 4 major hurricanes on top.
do you think Hawaii is gonna get any impacts this year, or you don't think it's a year for them to at least get a threat?
You'll see that in a moment.
Um,
But thoughts on the Pacific forecasts?
similar to mine.
What are yours?
I think personally it's aggressive for the storms and majors. I don't see more than 3 majors this year. Personally.
Mm.
See, even 3, honestly. Like, I'm thinking 2 the entire season.
Yeah, I guess I'll mention a little bit that I, especially of the last few years, have seen these huge bursts of activity around late July, early August in the Pacific, and of course we might see a major in September because we always have that one isolated hurricane in September the last 2 years, and I think this year will basically be a repeat of more or less of what we've seen the last 2 years. Maybe might be a little bit less than my forecast, and probably will be, but I more or less think that this year will be a repeat of what the last 2 years were. So maybe I'm a little bit too much on my major hurricanes, but my hurricanes and named storms.
I think it's going to be closer to 2020. Yeah, I think it's going to be closer to 2020. The combo of negative PDO and negative enter that we have now. AA actually mentioned that combo. I think 70% of the time it leads to below active season.
Yeah.
And the average is about 97. So yeah, I don't think we're going to see too much impressive activity.
Yeah.
Especially
that's just my forecast.
So
They say 1773. I mean, it could be 4. Like, I don't know if Agatha was a major. Like, Just the indication it was. So like if it was added full season, I guess I put 17.74.
Yeah.
But like if it doesn't get upgraded, then just 17.73.
Yeah.
But
Alright.
if it gets upgraded, I'll say 2 more and that's it.
Yeah. Alright, here is the impact forecast. If you guys want to see, you guys have my stream on your phones or like on your ends. Because like I'm at impact forecast now, and basically
Like where is it?
no, you can see my presentation on my stream if you have it open.
Like what do you click on the phone thing?
What?
Oh, never mind.
Yeah, but make sure it doesn't, feedback, audio feedback. But yeah, here's what I think with the landfalls. I have it on the thing, and I guess the best thing to say is the Atlantic key highlights, and my key highlights are a very high impact year, basically in general for the Northern Caribbean, U.S. Gulf Coast, and those specific areas. Mexico, the Gulf Coast, I think will be very active. Maybe the Carolinas too, and Bahamas as well. In the Northern Caribbean, all those areas will be very active this year, in my opinion. I also do say that, yeah, once again, the highest chances for activity this year will be the Northern Caribbean and Gulf of Mexico. Some indications will be the Mid-Atlantic, Yucatan Peninsula, and the Northern Caribbean areas this year. Those are secondary indications, but of course the Gulf Coast and the Northern Caribbean are my biggest areas, including the Bahamas as well. Early season activity this year, and also I think we also talked about this a little bit early on. We mentioned this very briefly that the rest of June and even into July is starting to look pretty favorable. So we might even see a pretty active early season. And I saw a comment earlier on asking if I think this year will be backloaded. I don't think so. I think we'll see quite a bit of decent activity early on, if you ask me. Maybe not too much in the way of major hurricanes, although I do think there's a chance for July because things do look pretty favorable. And I mentioned this to Danny earlier. Of course, obviously, no, right? But
Yeah.
yeah, I'm thinking that we'll have a pretty active season overall, and it'll be a very interesting one for sure. I think the Gulf of Mexico and off the East Coast, we could see short-lived spin-ups, but of course the Western Caribbean and Gulf of Mexico, as obvious for the early season, you might see a lot of activity concentrate there this year in the early season, which is why I'm having a huge risk there, especially. But I also do think as well, which really does enhance this real high risk for the Gulf this year, is there's a potential, in my opinion, for another late August Gulf of Mexico powerhouse once again that will likely target the entire Gulf Coast. Of course, we'll have to see where, but there's a huge indications, in my opinion, for probably another late August Gulf of Mexico powerhouse. We've seen it basically repeat a lot through the last 2 years, so I think we'll see it once again this year. Activity will slowly shift eastward as the season progresses, though. So that's where I think the Carolinas will also come into play, as well with likely maybe a few spin-ups that will come off the Carolinas. Maybe do a little bit of a threat there, but I don't know. But also there are indications for potentially active late season too. Of course, with the La Nina and a very strong Caribbean precipitation on the climate models that do persist through October and November, and particular interests in the subtropics for December too, especially the fact that we have not seen an early preseason storm this year, which obviously I think caught everybody off by surprise. I think that we have to watch for the subtropics in December to maybe produce something. We'll have to see. So
December is interesting. It's far out in time, but I feel like we could still have the potential. Like it's been a while. It's kind of overdue for that.
yeah. And onto the Pacific, it's basically straightforward. Near to below normal season is likely there due to the ongoing La Nina in the Pacific. And by the way, you asked about Hawaii this year. I don't think it's happening because I think most of the activity will be concentrated to the East Pacific. due to
Makes sense.
the La Nina, and also the negative PDO, and of course, basically areas outside of the East Pacific because of the negative PDO. Most areas are below normal, so most of the activity will concentrate likely in the East Pacific, close to Mexico, and I think that there'll be likely a few more threats there throughout the season, and also as we get closer towards the later on in the season, I think we might see a little bit of threats towards the Baja Peninsula, but I'm not too sure on that yet. So I have a moderate risk, but Hawaii, nah, I don't think so.
I don't even think there's gonna be much in the Central Pack at all. Maybe like one storm, maybe none.
Nah, maybe storms might not even reach the Central Pack. Well, of course, there might be like one or
Yeah.
two that reach it, but I barely think storms will reach the Central Pacific this year.
Yeah, I don't think much activity is going to happen like past 125, 130 west.
Yeah.
Due to the combo that was mentioned earlier.
But then what I said earlier though is and we've seen this trend throughout the last 2 years too, is there will be a likely chance for the peak or the biggest burst of activity in the East Pacific. I think will be early August, which has been typical for the last 2 years. I generally think it'll be a repeat of basically the last 2 years in the East Pacific, where we see the bulk of the activity peak in early August.
They probably need a lot of, well, I think they need CCKW activity over there because I think the MJ was just going to skip them every time or just linger near Africa and the Indian Ocean.
Yeah, and the Atlantic too.
If you anything that happens is going to have to be like a quick burst. There's going to be any sustained activity at sometime in June, but other than that, I don't really see any bursts of activity for like maybe past 2 weeks.
Hey guys, I'm gonna talk to y'all later. I'm gonna go and get something to eat, and if y'all are still alive, I might come back on. Right?
All right.
But
all right. Bye.
All right.
Bye.
Peace. All right. But yeah, that's the East Pacific, basically straightforward, as I said, because nothing much to talk about there, right?
Right now, for sure not.
Nah. But I did mention earlier the loop current though, because this has actually been quite a bit of a talk this year as well. It hasn't updated since mid-May for some reason, the tropical cyclone heat potential thing that I'm showing you, but there's been a huge increase in tropical cyclone heat potential. So basically, what we talk about, for those that don't know what that means, energy below the surface, because we need warm sea surface temperatures on the surface to favor storms to develop. But below the surface is also important, because how much of those warm waters extend below the surface is also very important too. And there's this huge piece that sticks out from the Caribbean as we talk about the loop current, and a lot of people are saying that that's a huge concern because it resembles a lot 2005. And 2005, of course, we had a very, very big activity in the Gulf of Mexico, and it was very much fueled by what we're concerning now is this very big, prominent loop current, and that's a very huge factor into what a lot of people are concerned about. And it's very clear, obviously, but we'll have to see what happens though, because if it favors throughout the rest of the season and we end up seeing the rest of the season very active, then of course a lot of chances in the Gulf of Mexico. We'll have to watch this because this is not a immediate threat right now this is not a seasonal threat to the Gulf Coast. Well, it is indirectly, but it will be a direct threat if we have favorable conditions with the storm ahead of it that moves directly over it, like we've seen with Katrina, because storms like Rita, Katrina, they benefited off this, and the loop current people are saying is as prominent as 2005, which of course was the year of Katrina and Rita, and of course last year too, where we had an item move over it and it bombed out like 30, 40 millibars in only a matter of hours. So this is really a powerhouse that we need to watch, and it's also a reason why I think the Gulf Coast needs to watch very closely this year. But I guess with all this, it might seem all doom and gloom, but the thing is, you gotta be prepared. That's the real big important thing. You gotta be prepared for this season, and that includes getting supplies as well. There's a supply shortage and all that type of bullshit that's going on with economy and all that. Prepare now, because you don't know if you might not have the resources by the time a hurricane is coming. If it'll be available to buy those resources because of all the shit that's going on right now. So buy it right now. Get a first aid kit together, and also have a plan in advance when a hurricane strikes. Battery powered radio to be able to listen to for local information just in case the power goes out. Check with your insurance company to make sure you have covered insurance for your house. And this basically goes for the entire coastline, including the Northeast, especially after last year. You'll want to be ready for anything that happens this year. And I do say that I do have interest in the Mid Atlantic this year, so we'll have to see what happens. But insurance, just especially if you get impacted badly this year, keep your insurance on handy. And remember your zone of evacuation, especially if you live close to the coast. Remember your zone, so whenever they call out zones for evacuation like this, a certain zone has to mandatorily evacuate because the storm is coming. You have to know what zone you're in so you know whether or not you're issued a mandatory or voluntary evacuation or you're told to stay in place. These are all just things you need to be prepared, and hopefully may the best be with everybody this season. So with that being said, what are your thoughts?
I see a really good season happening. I think it's gonna be have a range between 17 to 24 storms. Like it's not exactly clear cut yet because still a little early, but I have like a 95% confidence that it's gonna be between that range of 17 to 24, 8 to 12 hurricanes, and then 4 to 6 majors. I think it's gonna be hyperactive in terms of ACE and activity.
Yeah.
Because of how favorable conditions seem to be this year.
Yeah. And what do you guys think of my overall prediction? Just give thoughts, I guess, because we're running out of things to say, and it's almost 9. So
it's crazy how much he spoke.
Yeah, that's true.
The Atlantic prediction, I found it surprising, especially this early. Like a little aggressive, but like I feel like it could happen. It could happen. Like if
I guess I'm on the most I guess I'm on the most aggressive side, and I probably, if a lot of people were to say my predictions, they would call me a weenie. Most would say that I'm just on the aggressive side of the forecast for this year. Some would probably call me a weenie, but who knows? Maybe they're calling for 16 named storms this year.
It's in the aggressive side, but it's still possible. It's like high end.
Yeah.
Possible, like in the high end.
Yeah, but it's what I.
But it could happen.
Like an everything goes right situation.
Yeah, basically. But I mean, in the end, it just goes down to what else, whatever happens. And I guess as a side note, if you want to wait for an updated prediction, I'm gonna make an updated prediction on the 1st of August, and that'll be the final prediction.
It'll be interesting.
Yeah.
Maybe you do a stream like this in the same day as August 1st.
Yeah, I mean that's what I'm planning actually. That's what I want to do.
I mean, just before peak live stream, like a discussion before peak season.
Yeah. And I guess also regarding 91L, you guys want to do a stream tomorrow evening too?
I mean, I don't know if I could be on the whole time since like I'm like gonna be like in the Keys and shit, but like I'll try to get on for some time.
Yeah.
I'm going to be busy tomorrow night. Yeah.
I mean, I guess around 7 p.m. That's what I plan to do.
I'll be on like sometimes, like I'll leave for other things, but I'll be on for maybe like half, or more or less half the time.
Yeah. I mean, it just depends. Wait, any update though on 91L, what it's doing, or PTC3?
I mean, the European shifted south, like which hasn't happened in a while, which is interesting.
Uh, you said it's more
And the
towards
convection
Naples.
around like the Yucatan channel between the Yucatan and Cuba is still increasing as we speak.
Wait, you said Euro shifted south?
Yeah, it did.
Mm,
More
I
like
wonder,
Naples.
I wonder what caused that.
Because like it doesn't really have a difference. Like it still shows like similar start location. It just goes right earlier than before.
Mm.
I guess like the thing that's gonna pull it right comes in earlier this run. Like the thing that's supposedly gonna take it to the right comes in earlier than before.
I think it's the ridge to the north that kind of pushes it more south. But yeah, I'm saying around the Naples area though as well. We'll see a landfall. That's what I'm saying.
This could actually be like legitimate, like where the landfall could be. Like this afternoon, they had it near Sarasota.
Yeah,
Now
that's
they
a little
went
north.
back to Naples.
Yeah, around Naples, and a lot of the model consensus is around there. Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if model consensus like shifts south for 0 and for the NHC new forecast.
Probably will a little bit, but I don't think it'll get more south than the Everglades. That's it.
Yeah, yeah. At this point, the most south is the northern Everglades.
Yeah.
Like 5 miles south, like of like Naples. It's the most I see this going south. It's between Fort Myers and Northern Glades.
Yeah. All right, so cause my phone's really about to die, but I'm just gonna check to see what people say. I'm talking about how active June might be. My guess is probably around 2 or 3 named storms, at least multiple, because I do see their signals closer towards mid-June. But
I'm actually confident saying 3. I'm actually very confident in 3.
Yeah, I'd say 2 to 3. Ty Wilkins says 2 to 4, but I don't know. We'll have to see about the 4, but maybe depends.
I mean, if everything plays out like well, 4 is possible if everything plays out like perfectly. But like if it's just like normal, usually how it plays out, then probably 3. But if everything is better than we think than expected, then yeah, 4.
Yeah.
Though it's like a 30% chance though.
Yeah, it's kind of low. It's kind of low. We probably won't see 4 named storms. I'll be shocked if it is, but 2 to 3. Yeah, that's my bet. I'm gonna go with 2 to 3. That's yeah.
Probably like we have to watch the Western Gulf mid-June.
Yeah, but I guess it's
Maybe it
not
can
the
be
concern right now though, because we already have a storm we need to watch that's happening a lot real time.
right. But you know what I mean? Like I
Yeah.
feel like we have to watch that time frame as well.
Yeah, and I'll certainly keep watching. So what else? Video discussion coming tomorrow afternoon around 5 o'clock. I'm gonna try to do a video discussion then. And I'll try to do a live stream around 8 o'clock tomorrow, Eastern time, of course, 7 p.m. Central time. Probably an hour or so. And yeah, I will try to plan to post every day though, till the hurricane season ends. Even on off times, I'm gonna talk every day, because we need to get the shit going. I wasted so much time the last 2 years trying to get my channel going, and I was barely able to go anywhere. But no, we're gonna try this year, for sure, for sure. But
This year's their year.
yeah. Any update on the LLC? And I also think Recon's going back in around midnight. So
Yeah, probably the time we're asleep is when it reaches it. Probably like 2 a.m.
no, I only think it takes like an hour or so or less to get from.
Where are they going from? Louisiana again?
Yeah, I think so. I don't know. I gotta check. If they're going from.
By the time they're collecting data, though, I think we'll be asleep.
Yeah, probably.
Also, there's some early signal for like the same setup we have now to replicate itself. What Danny was mentioning earlier. was discussing it with someone earlier.
Yeah,
It
like a
seems
CAG,
like
and yeah, like some sort of CAG situation developing. Yeah,
yeah, like it seems like this year is going to be the year of cags because I had
yeah,
one already. We have one now. Not sure how bona fide it is, but yeah, I know we're going to probably see another one, like 10 days or so. So
yeah. I
it's
mean, the
CAG
actually
MJO
year.
is favorable throughout the
yeah,
basically the first half of June. The
it's
MJO is very favorable in the Western Atlantic and the Eastern
yeah,
Atlantic over
yeah.
Africa. That's looking favorable throughout the rest of the month entirely. So
Yeah, we have to
Especially in the
watch the
second
pack
half.
again as well.
yeah,
Yeah. There's a wave that's just before the Caribbean. I think we might have to watch that in about a week's time on the epoch side. Um, I don't think the signal is very strong now, but GFS does something. Of course, it does. It's GFS. Um,
yeah. I mean, we'll have to see.
I saw Icon try yesterday. I'm not sure about today. So yeah,
Yeah,
we'll have to watch something over there. I think in a week. Then we might have to watch the Atlantic side after that. Too long after that.
yeah, yeah. I mean, just depends on what ends up happening in the end,
Mm-hmm.
though. But we
Yeah,
certainly will be here
just
for.
seems like the same. It just seems like the same patterns getting repeated, rinse and repeat.
Yeah, but I mean,
It's
this is very
interesting.
early. But I guess the only main difference is that this will probably be more west, though, because the ridge will actually be there this time, unless because compared to this time
Yeah,
to what,
yeah.
yeah,
The East Pack though, like the pattern seems very similar. Not in the Atlantic side, but the East Pack seems like a very similar type of pattern.
yeah. I mean,
Like
I
Yeah.
hope
steering
you don't get
wise.
something as strong as Agatha, because Agatha was basically a major, probably was pretty
I
significant
mean,
for
it
Mexico.
probably if it something would happen down there around that time frame, I would expect it to be weaker, probably like tropical storm, but it could impact
Yeah.
similar areas and not the same ones. Who knows?
Yeah, you could just go right up across the same area and just go into the block again if anything happens. Seems like
Yeah.
the same thing. Yeah, we have time to watch it.
Yeah, and then it comes to July too, which I'd say I'm very interested in. So I guess the
The
bottom line,
same.
I guess the bottom line for my
Um,
forecast is that I'm really interested in this early season, and we're already starting off pretty. You know,
I
we're going
fully
into it
believe that
already.
July should have one of our best Julys in the past few years, based on how things look now.
Yeah,
It does verify. I think their activity could be quite decent early on, and that could be a harbinger for the rest of the season.
yeah. I mean, it's also important to mention that active early season doesn't always mean um, active season in general, but I mean, can be an indication. Just as well as that, the fact that we don't have a real active early season doesn't mean that we won't have an active season in general. Because I mean, look at 04.
Yeah,
So I mean, it all just depends on what happens. But man, this season real shaping up to be real big. We'll have to see though. But we'll be here throughout the season, keeping you covered. Hopefully, you accept us as your coverage. Of course, all three of us, Arya too, Gabe, and we'll have Puffball back, right? Throughout the season, right? We'll be all tracking together.
Yeah.
And maybe we'll get a few more people as time goes on. If you're watching, you know who you are. Maybe and you know you probably don't want to come on here, but I'm gonna push you either. I'm gonna push you either way. You know who you are if you're watching. You know who I'm talking about, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. But we'll be here throughout the season. Any closing thoughts?
Um. Well, waiting to see what PTC1 does.
I guess we'll have to wait overnight.
Yeah.
It could get interesting morning time.
Yeah, it could.
Again, it probably will get interesting in the morning. But maybe this time it'll actually
Yeah,
be
it
as that a
seems
storm
like it
forms.
really likes the morning time.
I feel like this is kind of similar to Isa. You mentioned this, Danny, but I feel like this is kind of similar to Isaias, although it's a different time frame because Isaias hated the night, but liked the afternoon. Really liked the afternoon. But it's basically its whole time frame.
This one likes more the morning more than anything.
Yeah. A lot of people.
It's an early bird.
A lot of people don't like the morning, but this does.
I think if PTC1 does what it has done the last 2 nights, at midnight, I think it should get over the line tomorrow. Not sure if recon that goes in tonight will find TC, but I think by the next one, I forgot when the next one is. I think it's
later in the morning.
Sometime around, I think it's in the afternoon again. Yeah, I think
I think
sometime.
it's later in the morning. I think it's later in the morning.
We'll have a TC by then.
No, I think it's later in the morning.
Late in the morning, okay.
Yeah.
Like the update?
Yeah, they updated.
Nah, the recon. There'll be one at midnight and then another one later in the morning tomorrow.
Yeah.
Like what time? Like 10 a.m.
I don't know. I also did hear though that we might get a 6-hour recon mission tomorrow or sometime.
Yeah, because they expect it to form by then. So they do full actual TCs.
Yeah, we might. Yeah, so I think at least tomorrow or so that we might get like a full 6-hour recon mission.
Yeah.
Today's low key sucked. It was like there for like 2 hours.
Yeah.
And they didn't
get to go through the deep convection. I guess there was just too much lightning activity or something.
They didn't even go towards the MLC. I hated that.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess the lightning activity was too much for the plane.
Tyler,
I don't know.
Tyler Wilkins saying that we'll have 3 to 5 July storms. Tyler
Probably
Wilkins,
what happened.
Yeah, Ty Wilkins saying we'll have 3 to 5 July storms. 5 is a little aggressive, but we'll see.
I'm hoping that's what's happened with Recon today, because if it's not the case that area was dangerous and they just decided to not go in there, then that's pretty disappointing.
Yeah. But I mean, I'll be honest with
you
though. I
think it looked impressive and still kind of does. Like the MLC area still looks nasty. Like it still has tons of storms.
Yeah, but I think the actual LLC, where the actual LLC is, I think it's actually getting a little bit better though, because we actually have convection over it now, which is a big improvement, I guess, from earlier today. I'll be honest with you.
We have to see if it fires up overnight over that same center.
Yeah, and I already see though convection over the Yucatan is firing again, so maybe similar to the last few nights that'll help the storm overnight again, and we'll see it blow up.
Oh yeah.
And who knows? Maybe that time it'll finally push the storm to TC status. So final bets before we end off, what we might think this will arrive at Florida at. I'm saying 45 to 50 miles per hour. I think 40 miles per hour is a little too low. Oh, who left?
I guess that's it. This guy, Nate.
Yeah, but what do you think?
Like my landfall or something? Just final thoughts.
Yeah, final thoughts.
I think it makes landfall at 50 miles per hour in Florida, in Naples.
Yeah, I guess I agree. All right, but we'll be here tomorrow, and we'll be here throughout the rest of the season. Danny, you'll post on your channel, right?
Yeah, tomorrow I'm gonna be like posting like footage videos and stuff.
Yeah, and also a discussion as well, right?
Yeah, I'll bring my iPad.
Yeah.
The keys and just go somewhere and do a video.
Be careful not to get trapped though.
Nah, I won't.
But yeah, we'll be here throughout the rest of the season too, tracking it real hard because, of course, it looks like we might have a pretty interesting season this year. And of course, we'll be with you guys throughout the whole season. Subscribe to us, both of us, this channel and Weather Hub TV, which is Danny's channel. And that's it. We'll see you when we see you again, which will probably be tomorrow through my discussions and, of course, through live stream too. Till then, everybody stay safe and peace, love, and kindness to all. And peace. Good night.
I'm pretty good.